Good evening, and welcome to the April 10th, 2019 meeting of the Community Preservation Committee. It is 5:30 something, and all members are present or accounted for, but let's do a roll call attendance if you could, John, please.
John Hall, at large, member.
Cheryl Doyle, Conservation Commission.
John Aprea, at large.
Peter McFarland, at large.
Helen Donahue, former selectwoman,
But current
member.
member, current and going forward, still current.
Thank you.
Welcome. And I'm Joe Greeley, at-large
Great.
member. We do have Pat DeShane here in support and giving us guidance, as always. And we have an esteemed guest in our audience. An observer, yes.
Antoinette.
Antoinette Esco. We do have several empty seats here, and they're available, empty but available. So we always appreciate attendance and feedback. We have a famous last words. We have a fairly short agenda this evening,
An action packed.
but it's action-packed, right? It's quality, not quantity. First item on the agenda, the only meeting for which minutes have not been approved is the March 27th, 2019 meeting.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Made and seconded. Thank you. Further discussion, adjustments? Okay, great. All those in favor of accepting those minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Thank you. Item number 2, Pat has provided us with a proposed list of meeting dates for the next 3 months or so, May, June, July, and August. My only observation with these is, as we talked last meeting, we're not sure specifically what night, or possibly nights, but what night the CPA articles will come up. But we'll try to give as much advance notice as possible on that. They are the three of the final articles. So unless someone, it's like Articles 12, 13, 14 out of 15. So unless someone makes a motion to move them forward, it will be the last
night.
one of the last nights or the last night of town meeting. So it'll be well into the May and well into the process. So because of that, in addition to these 4 listed nights here, we would also have to post a meeting for that night, since we would probably have a quorum that night. While we're posting a meeting, if it became necessary to tweak a number or make some kind of amendment, we could always obviously have that, actually hold a meeting and take care of business at that night. So just a caveat that there may be one extra night, there will be one extra night posted in the month of May, relative to town meeting. So that having been said, any comments about the summer? Everybody okay with these dates, or could you verify those, Pat?
I'd like to just say too, if something were to come up, I know last year we did, let's say the Red Norwood Day. We can always adjust. This is just kind of putting the groundwork going forward. But if something comes up and it's in late summer or early fall, we can always change that.
Okay, good. And since you opened the door about Norwood Day, we don't have to decide, this wasn't on the agenda tonight, but maybe we could put it on the agenda for May 8th. But we have received the application and the invitation to come back to Norwood Day. So we'll just put it on the agenda. Those of you who took a period of time at the booth have good memory and some thoughts on how it went last year and whether or not we should do it this year, and if so, anything different. So we'll just put that on the agenda. The application's not due until June 1st, so we have a month, 6 weeks to go.
They have an earlier deadline if you want to be sure that you'll get the same booth space.
Oh, same location?
Yeah, I just dropped off today the application for Friends of Norwood Center for that
Mhm.
purpose.
Okay.
But maybe our location isn't a major consideration for us.
Yeah, okay. Duly noted. What was?
I think it's May is
Okay.
the earlier deadline.
Okay, yep.
You might know somebody that can.
Yeah.
find that information out and rectify that.
We happen to know at least a couple of people on the Norwood Day Committee, so we can always
Yes, we do.
see what we can do. But yeah, so let's put that on the May 8th agenda if we could. Thank you.
Is it appropriate to talk about something to put on the agenda for our upcoming meeting right now, or is it?
Sure, let's go for it. We're setting the
Um,
meeting for spring and summer, so let's do
Yeah,
that.
well, the thing about I'd like to talk about is, at a future meeting is, purchasing a historical site, as far as that goes. I don't want to get into detail, but I'd like to put that on. And there are resources that, there is a person at the coalition that helps with guidance of historical preservation. His name is Jeff, I'm going to butcher this last name, Gagne, I think, but he's part of the coalition. He's the, call it a circuit rider for the eastern part of Massachusetts. So, and he works for the coalition, does technical assistance on preservation. I think we need to talk about, going forward and how it works and how the community should maybe have a community awareness meeting or something like that.
Okay. So this is a how-to guide as opposed to a specific property that you're talking about? Okay, let me rephrase the question. Maybe you could.
Both.
If you, Pat?
I was gonna say, I mean, I can talk to you afterwards too, there's various organizations that I think, we could partner with
Yeah.
in terms of preserving
Yeah.
this location or, have it
Yeah.
at either our control or joint control with a nonprofit.
There's a historical site that is kind of active.
Okay,
So-
all right. So maybe, if you wouldn't mind, you and Pat can have a sidebar and put it on the calendar and just try to get as much information to us before that meeting as possible, so.
Mrs. Esco had a question.
Yes.
I just wanted to let you know that Judith Howard, who chairs the Historical Commission, sent a notice to the newspaper, and she told the town manager, and I thought she sent it to the planning board, that the Mass Historical Commission will be conducting a workshop on Wednesday, May 1st, for us, from 10:30 to 12:30 at the Morrow Library, at the request of the Norwood Historical Commission. Christopher Skelly, Director of Local Government Programs, will provide an overview for identifying, evaluating, and protecting historic resources here in Norwood, and the meeting's open to the public, so I just want to put that out there. I actually, as the newbie, I had asked if there were any resources available, and to her credit, Judith stepped right on and said, we should do something, so we're having this workshop, and it's open, she has sent the notice to Town Hall, and Tony Zuko's aware of it, and I thought she sent it to the planning board.
Yeah, we got that, we have a post on
Okay,
our.
so I
board.
just wanted you to know that was available.
Could you repeat
Great.
the date
Sure.
and time?
It's on Wednesday, May 1st, from 10:30 to 12:30 at the library, and I'm assuming that's the Simonium,
Okay, great.
pretty sure.
Thanks, Tony.
The more information, the better.
Absolutely. Cheryl?
Can I add to the agenda for the future?
Just so we close the loop, so you guys are gonna get together and.
Patrick and I exchanged some information about that.
Good,
So-
thank you. Okay, yes.
Can
Sure.
we add, normally, this time in
Couple weeks ago.
April, all the boards start restructuring, but John made a good point before the meeting started, that because we're going to town meeting, we should wait till we get through that and then do our restructuring.
Okay,
And based on that, my suggestion would be that our normal time for changing over would be the June meeting.
okay, good. I think that's in line with what we talked about a few months ago.
Yeah,
So-
they're normally
sort of,
always
so.
done in April, all boards go across and
Right.
restructure April, but since we're different,
Well, the library board that I'm on
Yeah.
does it later also.
Oh, it does,
School
okay.
committee does it too.
Yeah.
School committee's like June, just before.
oh, they
Yeah.
wait till after the school year then. Okay,
Yeah.
so, then we'll be,
Okay.
then we're not so different.
So as opposed to,
It's special but not different.
so as opposed to Peter's item, which might be fluid as far as which date to put it on, which meeting date to put it on, then we'll put that topic on the June 12th agenda
Yeah.
specifically. John?
A third item which you may already have anticipated, is moving along the protocols and procedures for overseeing and supervising the projects once they're approved. I know you've had some dialogue with Stuart Saganor and with some of the town people, and so it might be good to have a target date in mind for when we want to have that in place, approved by us, and up and running, and that might also be June or.
And I'm sorry, just to clarify, so that's the, like, project management?
Mhm.
Okay, good, okay,
And the form, reporting schedules and content and
Yeah.
all that sort of thing.
okay,
We're talking about project oversight of the ones we
Yes.
approved.
right. We did send around a few emails today especially, but we were talking about a couple things. One, whether it comes from Stuart, Stuart's been great as far as feedback and input and guidance. I also had the thought of contacting a couple of, like, I typically go to Canton and Needham for my borrowing of forms and how-to guides. But then the third thing is to have Kathy County come and just give us a general outline of typical town requirements as far as purchasing and oversight and management of purchase orders, et cetera.
Perhaps we could have this addressed at our May meeting, have a subcommittee advancing things in the meantime, and figure that we'll make final decisions
turn mine
and launch everything in the June meeting.
Yep, sure, okay, good idea. So, our agenda is full for the whole summer. One other thing I would, once we get past town meeting, but before we get too far past town meeting, I just wanted to have, in whatever form this takes, but in one of our meetings, just to have a kind of an overview of what happened, what worked and what didn't work over the course of the year. Just kind of brainstorm, in a perfect world, what will we do differently in the new cycle? And that new cycle could be our annual, could be a special town meeting. It's too early to tell if there will be applications for the special town meeting in the fall. But it's always good before the dust settles and life happens again, if we can just reconvene and try to figure out how well we did. So, good, okay.
Good.
Cool. Okay. So we're gonna get, so our next official meeting is May 8th, 2019. We'll squeeze another one in around the May annual town meetings. And then we've got one June, one July, and one August. So if anyone has any issues or observes anything, doesn't look like there might be any holidays mixed in there, but should be good to go. Thanks, Pat. Item number 3 on the agenda, annual town meeting discussion. So we did, as far as the subcommittee, Cheryl, John, you want to give us a snapshot of
Go
what
for
magic
it.
you worked?
We had a lot of dialogue and markups and such, and we are at the point where we have a presentation draft, which has been circulated by Patrick to everybody. And Cheryl has noted one additional correction we need to make, which was we got the classroom term out of the text as we had said we wanted to do, but we didn't realize we had to and lacked the resources to change it on the diagram. For that, we'll need to get something new from Travis.
Yep.
Travis did, I didn't realize that was his and not ours, but Travis did say that he's updated the PowerPoint, so we can get that page from him.
Okay, good. Other than that, I think it's a matter of, hopefully everyone here has had a chance to look at it, and maybe you found some other things that could use discussion or tweaking or revising or what have you. And then I assume we'll also start talking about what the steps are at this point. There was some talk about working with Tony Mizuko on one of his informational meetings that will address our articles. I think we're pretty close to set about how the actual annual meeting presentation would go. We talked about that a lot, and I'll defer to to you, Mr. Chairman, to say where you think all of that is. Have I missed anything?
Nope, I think you covered it.
Okay.
Did everybody have a chance to look over that PowerPoint, or?
No.
It was excellent. Good job, good prep, very thorough. You know, I liked how you outlined the
Short
time.
and sweet.
That is it.
You
but
outlined
if-
it,
give me a
well, yeah, I
second.
mean, going
You
through
can
it,
talk
I'm-
this-
I don't know how
when it
much
came
time
up
they
on my
allowed you for
email.
town meeting, but I thought it was very thorough. It goes over the timeline, the projects, the spend, the total dollar amount,
Yeah.
and it's not too complex with the numbers, so. And I don't know also if it's gonna be a handout in one of the tables in the front of town meeting, so people can pick it up and digest it before it's gone over, or
We
at
did
least the
talk-
money,
we did
the money
talk about
slide.
that.
Yeah.
Yep. So what we're thinking, the first, give me a second, but the first 7 or 8 pages or so is content that we wanted to be able to send out to town meeting members before town meeting.
Oh, nice.
There's always, it seems like every other day, there's some package coming from town hall. So we wanted to try to get a good, that many of those printed, the first, let's say, 8 pages, before we start going into the project-specific information. So those will be mailed out to town meeting members and also made available on probably the CPC web page, maybe, or town meeting web page.
So we haven't really discussed the mailing out issues.
Yeah, we haven't, this is the proposal from the subcommittee, I guess.
I think with the
Okay.
changes we made, it's the first 10 page, which takes you through the slides that specifically address Articles A, B, and C,
Mm.
and give you a paragraph on what each of the 4 projects is, and a couple of tables on financing and allocations, but save the detailed discussion of
Yeah.
the individual projects. That's what the rest of the presentation is.
Yeah,
Some
yeah.
comment about the whole mailer, so you have 8 pages that you wanna mail out,
10.
10?
Yeah.
Is there any way to shorten that and go about?
That's what we shortened.
Okay.
What-
And, yeah.
What's your reasoning, Pat?
Well, I'm just trying to figure out how I go about, and the expense isn't really too much, we have, that's within the budget, but I'm assuming I would go through Norwood Printing or
Yeah.
another local provider that
Yep.
can have those
Yeah.
And we-
folded and mailed and
Thank
put
you.
in envelopes that fit that size.
Yeah. The more, our logic is the
Yeah.
more information, and this is just from being at town meeting all the time, the more information we give the voting members, the better prepared everybody is for town meeting, and then we don't have 2 or 3 hour long discussions
Mhm.
because they will already have the answers to their questions.
Do the first 10 slides include discussion about the current projects?
No.
No? So
There's a-
so it's already
Yeah.
information that we've gone over the past last year?
Yep, in the public hearings
Yeah.
and at every one of our meetings. There is 1 or 2 pages that's a listing, maybe like one of the last of those, maybe page 9 or 10. There's a 1-page listing of the 4 projects and the dollar amounts. Isn't that how it goes?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
9 and 10 respectively.
Yeah.
So how do we get the books out for the town meeting members, the budget books?
They're either mailed or they're online, or you can pick them up.
So should we just put our package in with the budget book?
Yeah, or yeah, that's what I
Oh.
just
That would
said.
be a better option.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so we're not gonna ask the print shop to mail them directly. We're gonna piggyback on an existing mailing that goes out, whether it's the blue book or some
Right.
other
Well, they
yellow.
do, what is
yellow
it, like
pages
the
or-
pink sheets and
Yeah.
all that, they start all those extra little mailings, so.
Right.
So I can find that out from the town clerk's office and we can
Yeah.
try to get that in.
Yeah,
We'll get that
okay.
in for the time when she's mailing those out, so.
Okay,
Could you also take a look at whether all of those pages convert to black and white at lower cost? Well, I noticed that the 2 tables have a lot of text in white, and so that might be an issue. And it can be changed if we know we want to change it.
Okay.
Well, the problem with the type in white is the background is so light.
Mm.
You need contrast. If you darkened up,
And you don't have much here.
yeah, if you darkened, either you go black on that background, or you make the background darker, and you get a contrast. It'd probably be easy if you,
Mm.
I mean, the thing about this is, what you're printing is a lot of backgrounds.
Mm. Yeah,
It's
right.
a lot of,
If you just get the
It's a
information,
lot of
put it
ink.
within a flyer or try to do it that way, it'd probably be
Sure,
Same with
whatever,
that.
yep.
I-
But- But the goal is to try to get as much info as possible to town meeting members in advance.
So each, excuse,
Yeah.
sorry, I'm sorry.
Good.
Does each group, each project is gonna make their own presentation, right?
We wanted to try to condense the whole presentation as much as possible. So our thinking is that we're gonna very quickly go through this presentation, including the back half of the back half of what you're looking at. The PowerPoint has two pages for each of the projects. Three.
3 to each one.
3 for each of the projects. So we were just gonna, hopefully between the public hearings we've already had and a lot of our meetings, and the information that we're sending out, we're hoping that people have a good enough, a good understanding of what we're trying to accomplish. And then we would make this whole PowerPoint available online, and we the committee would go through all those 4 projects. We were trying to avoid opening up the microphone and, having people, spend 20 minutes on each project if we could avoid that.
That's really smart.
And there,
That's a very good plan.
Sure,
Yeah.
yeah.
and we were trying to, we just wanted, just question and answering and not a lot of going
Excellent.
off on the extra fluff of it. So we thought, we're gonna be down in front, and then, the 3 people for the projects, you know how you sit this way and you face the tables, they would sit right there. So if anybody had a question, they could just stand up right there at the podium, answer the question, sit back down, and we can keep it moving.
Or you could try and answer the question first and
Yeah.
make a decision whether or not you were gonna pass it off to them.
Yeah.
That's good, move it along.
Yeah,
Well, my question would have been more, is regarding how many, we got, 22 pages is this presentation?
Yep.
Because the photographs are great, but if you're talking, we've got 22 pages. To me, if we could put talk about them and have them on the slides and people could see them on screen, putting them in the presentation. I mean, I think we got a lot of graphics in here that we don't really need. And just make it, if you're trying to streamline this, I think we got a lot of pictures and stuff that we really don't need to, kind of like adding.
Adding pixels. And when you say that, just so we understand, you mean in the first 10 pages or the back half?
I'm just looking at it, what I have on my screen is it's showing 22 pages,
that's correct.
yeah,
Yeah, 22.
yeah.
So as far as printing them all or the
Sure.
presentation?
Sure.
Well, just giving a 22-page thing, everybody's gonna gloss over, going, even if they get it early.
But we're
Because I
not,
think we wanna, I don't know, I would think thin this out and have the pictures available the night of as we talk about them, put them
Right.
up in the projector,
Yep.
the screen.
Yep.
And instead of putting it all and just give them the numbers and cut this down.
we're only giving them the first 10 pages. This is, this
First
and
10
this.
pages of
will-
what?
The first 10 is what we're giving to the town meeting members to read ahead of time, because that's the one that has like the numbers and everything we're doing to prepare them. Then it's all together as one PowerPoint. Once we get to town meeting, then we start presenting the whole thing as a PowerPoint. And that way we can just click through the slides, because then you have the first 10 pages, they're gonna already read it. And they'll be more prepared, so it'll be easier to get through the slides. Because this has all the numbers, the articles and everything in it.
I'm not seeing that one I'm looking at, but the first 10 pages,
Yeah, this is the first 10 pages.
So,
yeah, I'm looking, the 10th page is the proposed project financing.
Yes.
yeah, so
Yeah,
that's
the chart.
So that's the last page that we would mail.
Spends.
Right.
And then the rest of the pages,
So all of the pixels would just be.
the rest of the pages we would show in a PowerPoint at town meeting as quickly and thoroughly quickly but thoroughly as possible. Pat?
Mr. Chairman, I have a suggestion, or just an idea. There's that great printout or article from Coalition about CPA finances demystified.
Yep,
Is
that's
that
a good
some,
one.
that along with kind of a spreadsheet breaking down the projects and the costs, those two things, would that kind of equal the same information that you're trying to give out to the public, or is that kind of,
John?
First of all, I think you'd end up sending a lot more pages.
it's only two?
But it would add on, it would not take away. What's been done here, the idea is that the pictures are there as a candy coating, because if you just give them numbers and text, that's intimidating. That's what people will gloss over. I think history is on our side in terms of communication to a not terribly number savvy and number friendly audience. And by the same token, once we start hitting the PowerPoint, the pictures are gonna go like that. You know, they're just long enough to show them. Each of them tends to have a teeny little bit of text. That's all you're gonna be doing when you do a teeny bit of text. The things that you could get stuck on are the things that we will have sent out in advance. The detailed tables, the detailed lists of articles A, B, and C and the like. That they will already have had, so we can go through that quickly because it's not new. We go through the other stuff quickly because it's not text heavy, it's not number heavy, it's not something that you need to read or speak to. So I don't think that there's anything here that's gonna lead us to have more time. I think the main threats for too much time are precisely the ones that the chairman was talking about, when you give people an opening to start asking questions, any questions they want, as much time as they want, and then you lose control.
What we wanted to try to avoid, like the dear someone at the front of the town meeting, tell us the history of the Carillon, let's say. I mean, we're trying to, with appropriate respect to the town meeting process and the town meeting members, we don't want to turn it into something that we've already had public hearings about. We had a public hearing, it was posted, you know, we had a lot of empty seats, but there was some interest, and I've heard people say that they watched it online and got facts and information out of those hearings. So I think there was some appreciation of what those were, why those were presented. We're trying to move as much of the discussion off the town meeting agenda, town meeting night agenda, and bring it forward and put it into the hands of town meeting members ahead of time.
Fine. My suggestion on page 6 is ditch the white type. That doesn't do a thing for us.
Well, I'm gonna convert that to
Yeah.
another color.
And I
Yeah.
think, yeah, I would
And
just
the
go,
same
I just go
on
black with-
page 10.
I keep the background, just go black. As
Yeah,
far as that
actually, I
goes.
was trying to do that while we were talking, and I'm having computer challenges, but it shouldn't be hard to do.
Yeah, and then also, when we talk about if, on that page too, FY '20 receipts total, there should be a line after that, because the next thing is administrative expenses separate, and then there's only one entry that's way over to the right, 34,676. So you need a line to break that,
Okay,
because, and the same thing goes down, when
Yep.
you get down to the bottom, total
other
available
place.
funds. We need a line there too, because it kind of, you need separate, you know, they're separate. And it looked like they were all kind of together, and it looks kind of, it's confusing.
Pat, did you have something else, or you? Okay. Okay.
No, everything else is fine, I just, that page 6 kind of, and the same thing on page 10 too, with the going
yep,
white to black. And the rows all kind of line up the same, and it looks fine.
Okay. One thing that we want to try to avoid,
Thank
the Community Preservation Committee's mission and charge is to present these as the recommended projects, to recommend those to town meeting. We're not the advocates of the project per se, we're the advocates of the bundle that we're presenting. So I think we, to the point, I think, Kellen, I think you made the point about us trying to answer the question on behalf of the proponent. I think we don't necessarily want to do that, I don't think, but it kind of depends on what the question is. Like, we don't want to, if Travis, for instance, is charged with the Bond Street upgrade, let's say, then if there's a technical question about the Bond Street upgrade, then we should let Travis answer it, because he's the project manager and the applicant. So I think we just want to be able to kind of draw the line and say, okay, that sounds like a question for us, as opposed to this other one sounds like a question for the proponent. So, that's something we just have to be aware of based on the questions.
I know, because basically we received the applications, we reviewed the application, vetted the application, and now we're recommending these projects, and that's where we're at. And everybody, Travis, like Bernie would be there for the Carillon, at least.
Yep.
And sure, you'll be there, or whoever.
There's 3
Ramon.
Concom's meeting
Yeah, so,
members.
so there'll be plenty of people there to answer questions if that's
Sure.
the case, and they can advocate for their own project. And we'll be,
Okay.
And if we act like we wanna push it along, that'll be half the battle right there. Quick answers, moving it on, yes, that's a good idea.
Good. John?
In terms of process, I think our precedent is what's done with the ordinary departments at town meeting when they're talking about the budget, is almost all the words and almost all the answers are coming from the front of the room, the FinCom, the selectman, the town manager, and they have a feel for when they've got something that is technical enough or controversial enough that they need to ask a department head to stand up. We just have to have the same sensitivity, and at this point, I think we will.
Okay.
I'm sure we do.
Sure we do. To that end, this might be a good time to bring this up, but I had passed out 2 other pieces of paper, and actually I think I gave away my own. We have.
I got this one.
Get that.
the Stewart memo.
The Stewart memo and the attached bad copy of an attachment that Stewart actually sent as part of that.
I didn't get. I got Stewart.
So, several of us had a quote-unquote, a good idea of what town meeting's rights and responsibilities were, but we couldn't really find it anywhere officially. So, I sent a Dear Stewart email to Stewart Saganor at the Community Preservation Coalition. And as you can see, he came back with two responses. I'm going to talk about the second response first, but it says, as for the actions at town meeting, town meeting has 4 options, and this would be to the point of Tony's presentation before town meeting. The town manager has rolled out 3 or maybe 4 sessions, information sessions before town meeting, specifically to introduce especially new town meeting members to the process and what happens, and some non-article specific descriptions of the flow of town meeting, etc. Tony and I talked last night about what we could present as part of those information sessions. The first, Pat, you mentioned the just demystified finances of CPA. So that might be one good display as far as revenue and how it's the state law requires that it be allocated.
Okay.
So that relates to our Article 12, the one we've looked at as Article A, and B for that matter. But what Stewart has identified here is the 4 options of town meeting, and it's at that point that he kind of flipped over to the standalone document here. I just made a copy of it, but we'll give you a better copy. But the legislative body action, which is the town meeting members' action, town meeting may approve, reduce, or reject recommended amounts. Previous to that, we weren't quite sure if they had the ability to increase it, but as is confirmed here, they don't. So approve, reduce, or reject. Town meeting may reserve all or part of an amount recommended for a specific project to an applicable reserve, which basically means if the timing, let's say for the Carillon, for instance, if we decided, maybe on town meeting floor, maybe, if we decided to divide that project into 3 different phases, and let's say phase 3 wouldn't happen until a year from now, then it's an available option for town meeting to approve the whole project at $215,000 as an example, but to take a portion of that 215 and not allocate it immediately, basically to approve it but reserve it. So it's like available for future use kind of thing. It's not unlike that conservation restriction conversation we had before.
Yeah.
Right? So they basically earmark the money, but they don't release the money to that specific project, so they could do that. The third bullet here, the town meeting may not increase recommendations or initiate appropriations from fund monies. So they can't start from scratch. They can't create a project on the fly on the floor. So they couldn't propose a fifth project, for instance, and they can't increase a project, but they can decrease the amount. Like for instance, each of the 4 articles has a contingency dollar amount in it. So for whatever reason, if town meeting saw it fit, they could basically remove the contingency. I'm not recommending that, but it's an option to them, so.
We're not gonna bring that up, though.
We're not gonna bring that up, but that would be something, last year we only had one project, which was the chapel, and frankly, we sailed forward at 110 miles an hour, and I think this is a good chance now to kind of backfill some of the information and provide some options to town meeting. Cheryl?
I think it's odd that it says that you can reduce. Isn't it possible that could actually kill a project then?
Sure. Yeah. I don't know. Anybody else? I'll be quiet for a second, but John?
I think there are questions that have never really been answered, maybe anywhere, about the reduce and the reserve options. On the reduce option, I inferred from what Stuart said that you can't take tasks out of the project because that's considered initiating a new project. So all you can do is reduce the dollar amount. And if you do that, there's no reason why the people who said they wanted to do the project and said how much it would cost would feel bound to continue to try to do it. If you take all the money out of the contingency, then what happens when the project inevitably ends up needing a contingency?
Right.
And the best example of that is if you use the reserve approach, because now you've pushed the spending into out years, but you haven't allowed anything for the inflation that will occur.
Right.
So I think, I'm not sure they thought this one through completely, but anything we can possibly do to get them to think this is a yes or no decision, full stop,
Yep.
would be in our interests.
Yeah, we would prefer a yes or no. When someone starts tweaking a project, then it has obviously, impact on the project, and it may kill the project, to your point, Cheryl. One possibility, like if you think of the Lower Balch project and how such a significant portion of the money relates to the ADA ramp, if we came to town meeting and all of a sudden either money fell from the sky or somebody stepped up and said, okay, well, I have $60,000 that I'm going to donate to the town for that ramp, just some other source that we didn't contemplate and it wasn't an available option during our hearings. It might kill a project, but on the flip side, it might open the door for a good reason. So kind of goes both ways. I tend to think, though, that it might kill a project more so.
If we emphasize the accept or reject, approve or reject, I think the most likely suggestions from the floor will be things that are unequivocally not allowed. Either increasing the budget or initiating a different project.
Right.
Which would include saying, I love this idea, but you should do it at a different park in Norwood.
Sure.
And, you know, that may sound very like the same project, but it no longer is.
Right. Right. Yep. Peter?
I think our lead-in is to tell them our process was, you know, we took the application, the committee did an initial review of the process. Then we invited the, you know, the project proponents in and reviewed the project with them, and then we had the public hearing. So basically, there's been 3 steps along the way. Now you're the 4th step that we're recommending to you to approve this. So I think we need to kind of set the table that way too. So, you know, saying it is, well, you know, we just, you know, opened them up yesterday and threw them on the table today, but it's not that process. I mean, that's what we've done over the last, since the end of November to, you know, technically May, you know, May 14th or 13th, whatever we are.
Right.
Start town meeting.
Right.
So I think we set it up that way.
Yeah. It's not totally dissimilar from capital projects where, you know, if somebody said, well, don't buy a ladder truck, buy a engine pumper, or, you know, something other than the proposed ladder truck. It's like it opens up maintenance and the 5-year schedule, and there's definitely other ramifications of it. So, Tim?
I would anticipate that question is gonna come up, can we reduce the amount? And I think it needs to be a definitive yes, because that is the truth.
Yeah.
But they need to know the consequences
I
of
under-
saying yes, is that the most likely consequence will be that you've just rejected the project.
I agree, but it's still that,
Yeah.
Yes, it's
But
not.
It's still gonna take a majority vote
right.
too. I
Right.
mean, plus, you know, we have to, it's an amendment to our article, so it has to be approved. Then it you know, then it becomes this main motion after that.
I agree, I
Yeah.
just think that,
I think it might be mentioned, I don't think we're gonna have a.
But
I think that if it's mentioned carefully, that it won't be an issue.
Right.
If you
Right.
say, if you lower the amount, it's going to, in effect, kill the project.
One way of analogy that occurs to me is, you've approved that we need to have some plumbing repairs done, but you don't wanna pay what the only vendor available is asking for. So you approve less money and you've just disapproved the plumbing repairs.
The more simple you can make it, the better it will be.
everybody understands plumbing. But Debbie's point is right. We can't, and I don't think we.
We're honest, we
I don't
wouldn't
think
do
that was-
that. We would not do
They're
that.
gonna watch
we
the
would-
tape of us talking here anyways.
Right. Well, we hope they do. We
all
hope they,
100,
I doubt it.
230 of them.
we hope they give us good feedback. But yeah, your point was a good one, but
Yeah.
we won't give that full stop, just to retract some of
I
these
mean, I
words.
agree, we've done all the work, we've vetted it, we've done these meetings, and I agree. I just also, if that question comes up, it's a definitive yes, it will probably kill the project. I agree with Helen, you know, a shorter answer, but.
Simple.
Okay, good.
Simple.
The other, so we okay with that
Yes.
idea?
Good job.
The other part of Stuart's email, just to get back to the top half of his response here, do you have that?
Yes.
Yeah. When we got together last month, we had a good indication from Mark Good, the town treasurer, on the anticipated, the forecasted revenue for next year, both from the local receipts from taxes, but also the state match had been set. When we voted last month, we voted to allocate the local revenue, but we did not vote to allocate the state match. And what Stuart confirms here in the top half of his email is that we do need to allocate any revenue regardless of where it comes from. So we just need to kind of back up a little bit and revisit that allocation. If you look at Tom McQuaid had put this document together. We're still reviewing and discussing parts of this with Tom, but one thing that's certain in the, I don't know what color, this is kind of mauve-ish, pinkish. I'm truly colorblind here.
Salmon.
Salmon, thank you. Who knew? So the second, I'll just, no, the
Salmon's
second
more
one up
pink.
from the
Salmon's a
bottom.
little more pinkish.
That's not
Yeah,
salmon.
I
is it?
think that's
It's,
it.
it's orange.
No, the next one down.
Oh. No, that's-
Whatever color that, the henna
Pink.
color. So the second block up from
Rose.
the bottom, let me describe
That's
it.
rose.
Okay. So,
Not any rose I've ever seen.
Note that the women aren't saying anything.
Yeah.
right? Thank you. I am. What up? So what Tom has done, just quickly moving on, in that section, paint color to be named later. You see right in the middle of that, there's a dollar amount, $693,513. So that's actually the combination of $621,000 from local receipts and roughly $72,000 from the state match. And then if you run your finger to your right, down below it, on just above the hard line, so off to the right, there's $69,352
Mm-hmm.
times 3. So what that represents is the 10% of that combined local and state match. So what we didn't do in our discussions a month ago, in our vote a month ago, was take that extra it works out to be roughly $7,200. So we need to, I'm not sure if we're ready to do that tonight, but we will, formally go through, we'll come up with the exact numbers, and if I can ask that we revisit those numbers at our May 8th meeting, and we'll basically just reallocate that $72,000. But the $72,000 in the demystify, apparently it didn't demystify it enough, but if you think of Stewart's CPA finances demystified, it says that the funds have to be allocated 10% to housing, 10% to open space and recreation, and 10%.
Oh, we didn't have that number, now we do.
Now we do. So we're just gonna have to revisit
Dump it.
one of those items. So I just call that to your attention. It's gonna be a tweak that we need to make. But ultimately, when we get in front of town meeting, unless we know something in addition between now and then, is we're gonna present to town meeting articles that spread $69,352 into each of those 3 buckets. And the 5% will also include that state match money. So just it basically, we knew the 72,000 ahead of time, last month, but what this does is it just moves some of that money into the allocated reserve amounts as opposed to the unallocated reserve. So it's just a relocation, so. Peter?
I'm having problems with, when I see parentheses, I think of minus,
I do
negative
too.
balances. So this kind of, like, all these things are in parentheses except for a few. And it's
Why is
like, why are we putting in these in parentheses all the time?
Again, just, this isn't ours.
I mean,
this-
everything, I guess everything on the top line, top white section is the money, and we're just, in parentheses becomes the allocation,
I know.
so we're subtracting it from it. So it just,
Parentheses are
thought
good.
negative
Listen,
too.
Revenue.
So they're in,
But I was afraid to
a
ask.
good for
yeah.
revenue?
Say, John.
Oh, a good for revenue.
John, tell us all.
So
Say that again.
revenue is a credit in the financial world. So brackets, when you speak to revenue, is a good thing. That's why the bottom numbers, the 828 to the right, are all in brackets.
So this
Say that
is,
again?
this was prepared from the town executive director of finance, I think his name is. So it came from the accounting office. It's if you think of the PowerPoint, we've removed the parentheses and we've reversed everything, and
Debits and credits.
debits and
Debits and
credits.
credits.
Debits and
Credits are
credits.
Debits on the
revenue.
window side, credits on
Yeah.
the door side, yeah.
Okay.
That's good.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a good.
Brackets are
Right.
good when we're talking about revenue.
This document is for our purpose. We're definitely not gonna distribute this at all.
Good.
Okay,
So-
I'm
John?
Difficult for anyone to digest.
Mr. Peabody didn't know.
As I read it here, the numbers that we have in our display for FY '20 total receipts, the one that says admin matches exactly. The 3 for the specific areas are each $1 higher. And then if you read over to unreserved, the number we have is the sum of the two. This number that's not in parentheses and the number that is above it.
Yep.
So
Right.
I think that's because the total amount transferred in goes into the unreserved, and then there's a next stage where some of it is moved
It
into
gets
the
allocated out.
reserved areas,
Right.
and we need to keep that in mind, because you sure can't tell it from,
Right. The only reason, well, two reasons. One, Tom McQuaid delivered it, so we're distributing it to the table here tonight. So, number one. Number two, just the fact that that state match is gonna, concept that Stewart has now confirmed, means that we're gonna have to revisit our article. As far as our own vote, and then that's the motion that we're gonna make to town meeting. This is not our document. We won't play this on television. We wouldn't recommend that anybody other than John look at it, John and Priya. But this made sense to Tom McQuaid, and I'm excited to tell you it makes sense to me, mostly, with the exception of some of the numbers on here, but this is not what we will present to town meeting. So, Debbie? And I will bone up on my
I
color.
was a little concerned about the
sequence.
parentheses, but I wasn't gonna ask.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, so
Cheryl,
that's,
you're with me on that one, right?
so that outlines Stuart's email, so Stuart, again, continues to answer our questions and then some. He's a great resource, and we will continue to use him. Anything else? So we've talked at length about the town meeting. Financial review, I think we actually just did that. Tom, again, some of this we've digested and some of it we haven't digested, but this is from Tom, and it's his proposal as far as what the second floor thinks we have available. So some of it, we're still catching up on some of the earlier activity. This is really the first time that there's actually been a roll forward, which is good, but it's not quite, the numbers haven't worked out to be exactly what we think we have in the balance, so we're going back to them, so that's a continuing discussion.
Question, please?
No, sure?
Could we please have an update on the Saints lot?
So, I know you want to hear was it the last meeting or the meeting before that we talked about?
I was at that
Last-
debate.
yeah.
I was at the
Yeah,
live
yeah.
debate.
So, due to the timing, when the project has received its final permits and, basically they want to.
And they review.
Yeah, and when they reviewed it, the seller, well, the potential seller, because from what I have heard or told, that they don't technically own the lot yet until after, whatever the agreement was with the purchase and sale between the current owner and DCD Realty. I'm not sure if they even own the lot yet until after they have officially passed the appeal period for all permitting. So they want to hold off until the fall in order to sell it to the town. Paul is the director of economic development. Paul has Paul Keeler, if I say his whole name, has met with them, has discussed it, and not to speak for them in any regard, but they do want to sell it to the town. It's just for right now, for them, they feel that it's a little rushed, and so that's why they want to wait till fall in order to sell it to the town. They agreed with the appraised price, and that was good to hear. And so I think everything's still positive. I think it's just temporarily on hold until the fall special.
Thank you.
That's an email that Paul got from the company.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
TCD.
Owners.
I'll copy this before we leave.
Sure,
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Sure. So the bottom line is that
not much.
whoever the owner is this
Couple
week
lines.
has asked, or the proposed owner, it came from them to defer it. It hasn't been taken fully off the table, but it's been
So the owner,
postponed temporarily.
proposed potential probable future owner, however I would
Future
say
owner.
that,
Yeah.
is they are they engaged with town council as well as Mr. Alkiotis, and they're very much willing to, and I think they want to. I think it just right now, just how everything turned out and completing their proposed project, it just doesn't seem like there's enough time for them to really have it ready for us, or have it.
So we have the right to go, if there is a special town meeting, we have the right to go on that special town meeting warrant, don't we?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
With the
So that
reserve
would be
fund.
good.
We have the right to call a special,
Wow.
ask for a
Can I-
special too, not
What?
call a special, ask
Patrick,
the selectmen to make a special.
When's the appeal process up?
If that's a problem.
60 days,
Right,
Sure.
when is
It's-
that up?
June.
Yeah, so long after town meeting.
The
Right,
clock
I just-
started ticking on Thursday last week, so there's 20 days for state 60 for Concom's town part of it.
So we can just all be aware of, cause,
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, I have no idea what their purchase and sale agreement was, or what, how that lines up, but I'm assuming, sale's not final till they get the agreements for their project, so.
Thank you.
So to the point of the fall, who knows what tomorrow holds, but there is the potential for us to be presented with a proposed application. So that's part of our, as we did with the chapel, we have to have 8 items or less, we have to build that into our system formally. That says, okay, well, we have the main event is the May annual town meeting, but then we have to be flexible enough and build a fast track process in the event that somebody presents us with an application.
Didn't we already have an application in for this?
It got
Yeah,
pulled
it got pulled.
because,
I thought it was
Yeah.
just put on standby. I don't think it got pulled.
no, it
Oh,
got
no,
pulled, it's not on.
It's been
I don't think
postponed.
standby
Yes.
is an official
Yeah.
formal status for
Yeah.
it. So in the absence of anything else, we want to pull it.
I don't think,
It's a
tech-
planning-
It's in limbo.
technically, I don't think we tabled it, but it was postponed. What was proposed and we voted to only go forward with these 4 projects. So whether that application is still valid and it's on hold, or if it's invalid and they have to start all over again, we're not quite sure, but I would assume
I think I only missed one meeting, or 2 at the most, and I don't remember it being withdrawn or thrown out.
No,
It's not thrown out, it's
No.
just
Right.
temporarily.
we just can't act
So
on it.
then we
was
could
more-
just activate it, couldn't we,
Oh,
if
sure.
it came up?
I think it's an
Yeah,
active application, it's just,
think
Yeah.
that's-
Yeah.
we just don't have,
Right.
I
We
think
could
that's-
activate it when necessary.
I
Right.
think that's uncertain. I mean, I think this is what the chairman is saying is, when we failed to take the next step, we didn't take a different step that put it into some limbo state or standby state. We simply didn't complete the action on that project as we didn't do on the trails projects. Now, the question is, what happens automatically when you've completed your review and action stage and these 2 projects did not benefit from a formal decision? And I think the answer is uncertain. Is it still live enough that you could just act on it, or does it need to be restarted?
Pat?
This is different than the
So-
trails, because the trails changed the project. It was by a vote here at the table that we agreed to change the project from a major trail to a study of a trail or something, whatever the change was. But this the Saint project was we're waiting.
Hold that
I
thought
was
just a
just gonna
second.
say,
Pat?
sorry, I'm waving. When we originally set up the application process, I think we put at the top for 2018/2019. I think the idea behind that was that for any, especially real estate projects, you really can't determine whether things like that are limbo. You can't say, we need you to be available for sale on this date because it complies with it works with us. Obviously, this is a perfect example where it doesn't work with us. It's something that is going to be postponed. So when I had it withdrawn, it was for the annual town meeting. We had it as an article going forward for the annual. We asked to withdraw it from consideration for the annual. So I guess it's up to you whether or not you still think it's
I don't-
valid, but it was specifically in the application for 2018, 2019 year.
I don't think it really matters if the condition, my own opinion, the condition of the application may or may not matter. At the very least, the applicant would wanna take the application back once the dust settles and the fog clears and we know which end is up, then the applicant would wanna take the application back just to review it and make sure that nothing has to be changed. Some of the
Yeah,
lot
but-
lines or who knows what might have to be changed.
The
Even the
applicant-
name of the seller might have to change.
The applicant is us, isn't it, the town?
Depends which hat we have on.
No, it
Yeah.
is, because
It is
Mr.
the-
Halkiotis works for the town. He's representing us,
It is the town, but when we say us, technically
the
we
citizens.
technically we have our community preservation committee hats on. So it's not we at this table are not proposing any of the projects. We're the clearinghouse of the projects. I don't wanna get into semantics, but
I know, but we also
Authorized.
authorized a motion to have legal counsel engage this potential seller.
Yeah.
So we've got, that's an active motion, that's an active process right now, so,
Yeah,
I mean, as
sure.
far as I'm concerned, that application's active.
Me
Yeah.
Because,
too.
but it's just taking time.
Right,
And it doesn't
right.
just, like Patrick said, it's not falling into the it's not gonna hit May, but the next, once everything's signed, sealed, and delivered, and we can make a proper, offer, and it's accepted, we'll go to town meeting with it. So, I mean, that's, as soon as it's, all those little things happen,
Right.
and we're all set to go, it's just, we can't go anywhere yet.
We're all,
I'm gonna raise my hand first
Okay.
and just say, these are all good questions. These two topics or any other topic could come up at town meeting as part of the bundle bundle of projects that we're proposing about what about number 5 and what about number 6 and why didn't you consider number 7 or whatever. I think what we need to do at May town meeting is we need to focus. We need to call everybody else's attention and focus to these 4 projects. We can certainly answer the question with as much information as possible, but frankly, it's not a topic that we want to spend too much time on in May. It's a valid question. I agree that it is still an active project, but we just didn't pull it
Well,
forward.
we can't act on it.
Yep, right. Toss up, John,
I think it's an active project,
an active
but
or
it
inactive?
is an active project now.
not in,
It
not,
is active
oh,
now,
oh, active, right, yeah,
but it won't be at special town meeting.
right.
I think the
Right.
active status runs through the end of our cycle. And right now, they're proposing to come in for a decision at special town meeting in the fall, at which point we're into our next cycle. At which point I don't think proposals stay alive forever until you
But we-
withdraw
we-
them.
We paid
Why
for an
not?
It is,
appraisal.
it is active.
Why not?
Right, we haven't, that's up
Finished
to,
it.
that's up to us to decide?
Or Stuart to tell us that we,
No,
Guys,
it's up to us.
the parameters are set by
Right.
the
You
local
can't-
CPC in
Yeah.
terms of how we view the project.
Stewart is a great resource, this is my own opinion, and I know you and I differ. Stewart is a great resource, but most of these things are up to us.
Right.
There's no silver, handbook that says CPC 101. We're writing our own as we progress. There are definitely things that we don't know that are by law legally driven, but that's such a minute point that we own it. Not to belittle that point, but it's way down the list.
I agree.
Yes. Cheryl?
No matter how you look at it, that application still has to go through the process that the other 4 applications went through. So it still needs to be vetted, it still has to have a public hearing, and it still has to go through all the same channels. So in one respect, it is active because it just hasn't moved to the next step of the vetting and everything. Because if you remember at the last meeting or the meeting before that, I asked Paul if we could still go to town meeting with it in May, appropriate the money, put it in Concom's land fund where it's protected.
Right.
And then if we don't buy it, it gets pulled back out, goes back to the reserve. Problem is, you have to say the price of the lot.
Right.
And
Right.
that's what put the dent in it.
Debbie?
Oh, so no was the answer? You couldn't do
You
that?
have to say the price of the lot, and we didn't know at the time.
When you asked that question,
Yeah,
Okay.
but you also don't know when all the dust settles.
what's gonna be, okay.
We
What
still-
it's gonna be.
we
We
still
know
don't,
what the
right.
appraisal price is, but then you have the closing costs, you have all the other stuff, so we actually don't know the whole bottom line to it until then, and that was the reason.
And we did pay for part of the appraisal out of CPA money.
Half the
Yes.
appraisal, right.
Yes.
So we're kinda active or kinda not. Are we even gonna bring this up at town meeting?
No,
No,
We're,
no,
Only if
no,
asked.
it's
No.
not
Only if asked.
no, no, no,
Yeah,
no,
okay.
no.
and if we do, it's gonna be a very brief
Yeah, cause it,
update.
it's sitting
It's
there,
not
we're
part of,
waiting.
it's not part of an article.
The
Not
answer,
for sale
the
yet.
answer will be, the procedure is moving along steadfastly.
Steadfastly.
Fast, yeah,
Wow.
I like that.
Henceforth.
Debbie, you had a hand up?
No, I'm done.
To wit.
Okay.
You're in.
Let's close conversation about that. If someone wants to come to our May 8th meeting and make a motion that we, right now the application is active but kind of dormant. I don't know what the status is, but if somebody wants to say, let's table this out of this application, and revisit it in the fall, or let's take the application and push it back to the proponent and ask that it be represented, or whatever. There is still activity going on it, so if somebody made that motion, I think, it may or may not impact the application. The activity that's taking place is not happening at this table. We're not going forward with it. I'll say it's not a viable project that we're proposing.
Not for sale yet.
But
Right.
it is.
Viable project that we're proposing.
At
It's
the-
not.
It is, because Mr. Halkiotis is still working on it, and town council is still working on it. The only thing that's wrong here is that we're waiting for an appeal period to expire.
We're not proposing it in May,
Right.
right? So what I said is a valid project that we're proposing. We're not proposing it yet.
I wouldn't even get that technical, I'd just say.
I'm not gonna say that, but I'm just saying.
I'm just saying, we're just waiting for the
Everybody will
final.
hate you at
the
town
final-
meeting.
Well,
The
they'll
whole
just,
town wants
Ah,
it.
I know it.
they'll
the whole
just have
town
to,
wants it.
they'll have to wait in line.
Yeah, really.
Okay, time out.
You'll ruin the
Okay.
rest of the project.
Let's move on. Okay. Okay,
As Tony's escaping.
Shots fired, Tony. You're
Never
worried
gonna see her
about?
again.
okay, I
She's
think,
gonna
thanks,
reconsider.
Doug. I think
Yeah.
we just had our financial review, account balances discussion. Anything else on the agenda for the evening that we wanna talk about?
I make a motion, we adjourn.
Okay, and our next meeting is May 8th at 5:30 PM in Town Hall. I get a motion, seconded?
Second.
That was unanimous. All those in
Now we have
favor,
to vote.
all those opposed, unanimous. Thank you very much. Thank you,
Adios.
Norwood Community Media.